Now that we're talking about treatment for antivirals, this is treating specifically viral illnesses. So just like antibiotics treat bacterial illnesses, the same thing goes for antivirals. So they're a little different in the fact that they're not killing the virus. They are simply just shortening the length of the symptoms. So because of this, they're not really used that often, so they're usually only prescribed to patients with life-threatening symptoms, so they can try to shorten the length of those, but it is not necessarily something that's going to immediately have a cure for your symptoms like a antibacterial would. It's also important to note that antivirals are used to shorten the length of symptoms, which is different from our vaccines, which we will see on the next slide. So we're going to focus on vaccinations and how this can help to prevent these types of diseases. And so what a vaccination does is that it is a substance that is used to stimulate your immune system to guard against attack. So we are using your own immune system. We're just using it to more of its own advantage. And so what we're doing is we're going to use them to prevent viral and bacterial diseases. We often forget about the bacterial diseases, but it can be used to prevent that as well. And so what it does is that it is going to expose you to the antigens before infection. So antigens are those like identifier portions on our cells. And if we can see them in advance, that's going to help us build our immune system. So how it works in our body is that it's going to literally trick our immune systems to make antibodies that your body will remember how to make if the real thing invades at a later time, which is going to decrease our response time. So it really tricks you into thinking that you've seen the real antigens, and so you begin to make antibodies even though we just gave it to ourselves via the vaccination. It's also important to note here that it's not entirely preventing you from getting the disease. It's really decreasing that response time for when you actually get it. So if you think about the coronavirus vaccination, it's not going to stop you from getting the disease. It's just going to increase your ability to respond to that disease and therefore make you less sick, hopefully. So we can still talk about vaccines and their prevention more. And how vaccine works is that they are made from weakened viruses or inactivated viruses, or they can also be part of the virus or bacteria. So if we use, again, the coronavirus, for example, there's a couple different options for your vaccine, but I believe most of them are made from the parts of it rather than the entire inactivated virus. So they're using RNA from the virus, which is like their genetic material. What this does is that it stimulates your immune system to react. And sorry, this got a little fuzzy here, but vaccines work because they are using herd immunity. And herd immunity works that when there are enough people who have received the vaccination, then our microorganisms, our microbes, aren't able to spread anymore. So now we're going to spend some time talking about what goes wrong with your immune system or its ability to defend against these types of attacks. And the first thing we're going to talk about is our autoimmune disorders. And these are when some viral diseases, like AIDS, they're damaging the immune system, which means that the body is going to be unable to deal with infectious agents or cancerous cells. So people who have AIDS typically suffer from lots of other things, lots of other diseases and infections because they have a weakened immune system, so they can't fight off these other infectious agents as well as a normal person would be able to. A second type of failure of your immune system is with allergic reactions. And so this is when the body's immune system overreacts to typically harmless things in our environment. And again, they are usually harmless. So we could talk about peanut butter. We can talk about pollen. These are harmless things, and your body has just decided to overreact to them. And when this happens, it'll typically cause some type of hypersensitivity to certain substances. And then the last type is overactive immune systems in general. And so there are various different diseases that can cause the body to do this, but they are causing the body to attack itself. So some of these are things like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, MS, which is multiple sclerosis, many different things where the body is then attacking itself because it thinks it is the foreign infectious agent.